All right, thank you so much for attending my masterclass on hard wallet security. Something like this. Oh, shit, from Nami wallet, my ADA was stolen. People reported lost ADA, or you might have seen about the atomic wallet hack. People have also said, yeah, oh, 8,000 ADA have been stolen and so on. This happens all the time. Or you might have seen the news about LastPass. There was a hack where the password storage was stolen and people have stored probably seed phrases and stuff on LastPass, and about $35 million have been so far stolen from LastPass users because they've been encrypted. Or you might even have seen news like this, where people have said, I even use a hardware wallet like a Cardano, but I was hacked. Yeah, so who is, what's going on? But then pretty quickly, other people chime in and say, stop saying my ledger was hacked. Please first understand what hack means. You're just confusing people, so stop these stupid posts. So what does it all mean? So why I'm doing this session? So basically, you can say the scammers are getting even more and better and more prevalent. And this really unsettles users. And users usually coming up, usually in bull markets, they have non-applicable mental models. They maybe have naive expectations on the ecosystem, so they are very easily most vulnerable to attack. And it's in the SPO Masterclass today because when something goes wrong, typically delegators come to us, SPOs, stake pool operators, and we should have a common understanding what are best practices. But as Dinesh said, it's applicable to everyone who wants to hold crypto. And it's very important, I think, to have a common understanding on this, on best practices, and to share and foster exchange on this. That's the idea. But still I want to have the disclaimer that don't trust verify is also valid here. So I'm trying to do my best and try to have proof for everything I say, but still verify what I'm about to tell you. But myself, I'm running the stake pool straight. I'm a computer scientist and I'm from Germany. I'm also a proud ambassador for Cardano. So by starting off, first I have to give some basic definitions on keys and seed phrases. Basically each wallet you use, whatever wallet is, it will have some kind of so-called root private key, which is a very long, hard to remember number basically, from which all other keys, addresses, public keys for all the different blockchains like Cardano, Bitcoin, whatever is derived from. But this is a very hard to remember number, right? So what you also have is a seed phrase. So this is the backup phrase, the mnemonic phrase, the 24 words you typically know, which is something you can think of as something which is a version of this hard to remember long number of the root private key, but it's easier to remember because it's readable, you can write it down more easily and so on. But if you have a seed phrase, it's also important to remember that always the seed phrase comes first. So you first have the seed phrase, and from the seed phrase there's a one-way cryptographic function. This is one way because it's using hashing, so you can't go back. So once you have a seed phrase, you can get one way to the root private key, but you can never get from the root private key the words again. But so it's using hashing. And there's this Bitcoin proposal you might know about, BIP39, which has set an industry standard for setting up seed phrases, where you typically pick 12 to 24 words randomly in some kind of sequence. And here you can see the list for English words. This list exists for all different languages like German, whatever, Arabic. You can have this list. It only matters that you pick basically 12 or 24 times a number between 1 and 2048 randomly. But it's very important to know that anyone who gets access to the seed phrase or the root private key has full access to all funds you have. So just having a hardware wallet doesn't mean you are protected anyway. If your seed phrase is gone, everything is gone. So the seed phrase is the most holy part to protect at all costs. So how do you come up with a good seed phrase? So maybe this is the first question. So how do you get a secure seed phrase? Or what can you do, right? So you have to have some random number, right? So random words. So one way you could do is you could roll the dice or play cards or toss a coin or stuff like this. You could do this. So, but what you want in this is you want to have very even distribution, and you want to have non-predictability on this. But when you throw dice, it's not so easy to do, because then you have to have perfectly cut, non-biased dice, which are very evenly shaped. So ideally, you would have casino dice. So there was a study done by Chaos Conference in 2001 in Germany, where they looked at casino dice in Nevada casino and said, yeah, here we didn't detect any bias, so this is pretty good. But if you use just your random dice from a board game, you're probably not so good off. But you also have to have a good throwing technique, the proper height for this. You want to have a very plain surface and so on, maybe even bounce it off something. So it's a bit tricky to have a very good throw of this. But if you do this, you don't have to trust anyone. Yeah? It's just yourself. So no algorithm, nothing can go wrong, it's just your own. It's fully offline, yeah? So very good. But it takes effort, of course. It takes manual effort. And there are multiple guides for this, so you can just search on Google Bitcoin roll my seed, and you find multiple guides for this. And the tricky part here is when you have a 24-word seed, the last word is a hash of the first 23 words, and this is a bit tricky to get. There's even a guide for this where you can do this manually on paper, which takes a lot of time and effort, but usually this is the step you would want to do on a computer. So the last word you would get from this. But it's very important here to remember that you yourself, as a person, you are not a good source of entropy. So just jerking your mouse around or typing, smashing the keyboard, or just thinking a brain wallet up or something is a very bad source of entropy. You shouldn't never attempt this. So what other options do you have to get a seed phrase? So you could use any non-audited software and non-specialized hardware, so any hot wallet basically. Or it could be something like this. There's this tool from Ian Goldman. He built its website, which you can use to generate a seed phrase. But you can use any wallet like Eternal, whatever, to generate your seed phrase. But of course here, unless you use some kind of script on an air-gapped computer, by definition, whatever you do here is by definition online. And has the risk of being attacked. And since 2012, there are hardware random number generators embedded in Intel processors, but these are proprietary and audited. And you have to be still sure if you use this, can you trust that this is non-predictable what you get and is evenly distributed? Do you know? Probably not. So whatever other options you have. So you can use this, maybe this came up yesterday in the session with Chanjem. You can have these two random number generators, or there's even quantum random number generators out now. Some example, here's the ledger, or here's one device for quantum, for Quantis, which uses some light optical things to generate entropy. So this has the benefit that here you can have audits, certifications on this, right? What does, for example, Ledger say about this? So when you ask Ledger, they claim, yeah, our true random number generator, he has passed very high standards. It has been evaluated by a third-party laboratory. It has obtained EL5+, which has come at some different levels. The top level is EL7, and also by the German Ministry of Security, they have, by IS31, achieved a very high standard. So this looks good, but they just claim this. But still, when you have something like this, audits and certifications, they can really help, in my point of view, help produce the required level of trust you have to apply to a product. Because you know some third-party laboratory has verified the claims of the manufacturer, right? But then I went out and went to the Ledger website and tried to find out, yeah, what exactly is the level they got in IS31? Because there are multiple levels, right? It's a classification of some sorts. So I asked Ledger on the website, but first I looked also on Quantis, because they're different products, and they have products. The most expensive one I found was about $3,000 US, and they had this product in non and in certified versions, and the certified version didn't have a price tag. It was just ask for it. So I assume it's more than $3,000 because the most expensive one was this price. So it's when you want to go the quantum realm, it's a bit more effort. But Ledger transparency is not really good in here. So I asked Ledger. I went to the website and said, yeah, where can I find the scans of the document? Which class do you get? And then you get the bots. I'm sorry, but Ledger does not provide publicly the scans of the security documentations. But you can trust that our devices have undergone rigorous testing and have achieved the highest level of certification. It's verified, and so on and so on. But this is a word we don't really like to read, right? You can trust. So this I didn't like. So I wanted to look more deeply into this. So what does it really mean? So which classes did they get? So when you go to Quantis, the website, look up their product, you find very easily in the marketing pages, you find the certification. It's from the French, basically it's the French version of the German Ministry of Security. They have certified their product, and they have even a courtesy translation in English. And here you can see they have acquired level PTG3. So whatever this means, so they have PTG3. Okay, so what about Ledger? So Ledger had this statement, you can trust. Okay, so I went to, you don't know what level it is. So what level is ASE 3.1? You don't know, it just says highest level. So maybe it's also PTG3, what is it? Yeah. So I asked Google about it and found a security target document from Ledger. So this is all public, so you can find it. You include also the links on this. And here you can find, they have the secure element in it. And the secure element chip they use, they even link the certification on this. And the certification I looked up, and I said, this certification has EL5 plus. So you can see EL5 augmenté, which is French for EL5 plus. So this is the element they use. So okay, so the hardware has the certification inside the Ledger device. So this is fine, but then you also find in the same security target, the target basically defines what are they aiming for, right? So what are they achieving, what trying to achieve, but it's not the confirmation yet, but what they're aiming for. So they're targeting for PTG2, so it's one dot below the quantum thing. And they say also, this we have achieved, and they also say, to add the entropy, we added some special code to it to even increase the entropy a bit more. So you could assume that it's kind of PTG2 plus, right? So it's a bit better than just PTG2. But this is what they claim. So who verified this? So first you can go back to the certification of the secure element. And you can see, have you analyzed this? And it has PTG3, so PTG2. So this is confirmed. So the element built into the ledger, which generates the random keys, has PTG2. And you also find for the same security target from the ledger number X, you can find the certification from the same agency, which we have on the left-hand side. You can find also the confirmation of this statements. And here they have acquired this first level security certification, CSPN. And here they say on the random analysis, they didn't find any issues with this. So this looks fine to them. So I would say it's confirmed, this is PTG2 plus, kinda, right? So what does this really mean? So is this good enough, PTG2 plus? So what does it mean? So I looked up the German documentation on this. So the German Ministry of Security, they have, of course, the specification up online. Got the news draft, which was from last September, where they talk about all the different classes they found, what they say. So they say, there are different classes, and the strongest overall class is PTG3. So we established this, the strongest class is what the quantum device has. PTG3 is the best you can get right now. And they say, but the ideal number generators do not exist. Because if they did exist, there was no possible way to verify them. It's impossible. So they allow some kind of entropy defects. And they also say, for some applications still, these kind of defects might bear some kind of security risks. And they specifically sign out the elliptic curve digital signatures used in blockchain. Say, this is not perfect. So an anniversary might collect many signatures. And from this, maybe because of the entropy defects, be able to, in principle, reconstruct the private key. So they say no concrete attack exists so far, but they say this could possibly pose a risk. But consequently, they say direct application of the PTG2 devices to generate anything for crypto, like cryptographic keys, is not recommended right now. But they also say, PTG2 compliant number generators in general create very high entropy. Yeah, that's good. And they say the entropy shall in particular prevent guessing attacks, which is exactly what we want, so this is good. But they say, if there's a very large number of these signatures, it might be discernible from a really good ideal randomness. And PTG3 is even better, where they say this has no bias whatsoever. So PTG3 is better. But I would say that for now, PTG2 plus for me seems good enough. But long term, if you intend to hodl your storage for many, many years. It might make sense when PTG3 class generators get more affordable to migrate to better seed even. So it would make sense. But how likely is it, if you have a very good seed, how likely is it for someone to guess your seed and to get the same seed? So this is a question people typically have. So I think something like this can help to get a feeling for this. So you have a better chance of like being struck by lightning. It's 1 in a 15,000 chance. Or winning the Super Bowl lottery. It's 1 in 300 million. Or even you have a better chance of flipping the coin 100 times and 100 times in consecutive order getting heads than guessing a 12-word seed, which is a very big number, 1 in And the number 1 in 24 words is even bigger, doesn't fit in the table. And you can look at also the number of atoms in on Earth, which is a smaller number, much smaller number than the 24 seeds chance. So overall, you can say, if you have a good seed phrase, you can say practically anything is more likely to happen than someone guessing your seed, like it gets stolen from you, it gets phished from you, you get coerced to type in your seed phrase, it's much more likely, and stuff like this. Or it gets destroyed, you encrypt it so much, you split up too much, nobody can recover it. Something like this to happen is much, much more likely than someone guessing your seed phrase. So what about risks when you use a hot wallet, when you use it on a computer? So I want to just quickly go on this. So some attack vectors I put up here. It's not a complete list, of course. So you can have keyloggers, which log every type stroke you make. You can have clipboard malware, which reads your clipboard. You can have remote access exploits, which access your computer while you use it and can see everything you see without you knowing. Or you might have memory scraping malware, so something sensitive is in the memory, and the malware checks your memory for sensitive key information. You might have SIM hijacking, where people clone your phone and use this to get to sensitive data. Or you might have typical phishing websites, which look exactly the same. You think you go to the wallet you want to go, but you actually go somewhere else. And the even more sophisticated version is DNS hijacking, where they hijack the DNS servers. So they reroute the URL, which is the correct one, to a different server. So it looks, you type in the correct URL, you go to the correct website, but you still go somewhere else. It looks the same, but you're phished. I think this was atomic hack or something like this. Or you can have even something like malicious code injection, when they put some malicious code in NPM, basically which are packages in code, which the wallet producers might not notice, put in a new release, and then you have some exploit in the wallet. And you have, of course, things like a hack of online storage passwords, like what we see in your LastPass. Anything can happen, or any general cloud hacks, and so on. Lots of things. So anyway, to remember, it's hardware wallets are always the more secure choice. Even something like this ring I got yesterday is better than a hot wallet in any case. But you might say, yeah, but I want to have this nice UI. How can I use this nice UI? Maybe you're used to Eternal Wallet. I have this example here. So if you use it like this, I generate my private key here, my seed phrase. You can use this. It's a hot wallet. If you do this, the hacker will be smiling. Cool, yeah, please do this. Because now I have maybe keylogged whatever you type in to verify or make a screenshot. Perfect, don't do this. So what you can do instead, you type in nothing in the computer, but you use a hardware wallet where you see it on the screen, what your seed phrase is, and you write it on a piece of paper, right? And then if you do this, the seed is offline. The scammer is not so happy. No chance to attach this, and this is very important. Remember that in pretty much all the cases I have seen, and when someone says the ledger was hacked, and in reality, they somehow gave or revealed their seed phrase. It's always the case. And they don't realize some slipped up, but nobody has really hacked a ledger user. There are some exceptions to this, but I will come to this later. But nothing to worry about. So how can you combine this? So I want to have the security, but I want to have a nice user interface. So you just use pairing. So you export your public keys to the wallet, so the wallet knows what your wallet is about and can generate transactions for this, and you can just sign it on your hardware device. If you do this, scammer will be not happy. So basically what you get a nice UI you want, maybe Eternal, maybe whatever you like, but you can use it, continue using it securely in your happy camper, so to speak. So this can happen. But yeah, so also hardware wallets are not really completely trustless, right? So maybe you remember this tweet from Ledger last year where it said, "Hi, your private keys never leave a secure element chip, which has never been hacked. The secure element is third-party certified, same technology as used in passports and smart cards, credit cards. Firmware update cannot extract the private keys from the secure element." So this was publicly posted by Ledger in 2022. So people made up their own mental model of this. What does this mean? Okay, so this means, yeah, we have this ledger, we have some logic unit which processes some UI. Externally, you get some request in to this. It sends some unsigned message to the secure element, which stores the key very securely. It has some processing in here. Firmware updates can never extract this, and that just returns a signed message. This returned, and everything is good. This is what people assume to happen. But then we all know Ledger Recover came, and yeah, now we can have easy recovery, and so on. But this changed users' perception, right? So they had, oh, okay, shit. So now firmware updates can change this code. You can update anything in here, can return anything, but this is not correctly either, totally, this visualization. So made some changes to this. So the secure element actually in the Ledger device is much bigger. It includes all of this. And here what you have is the so-called secure integrated circuit, which has some low processing, correct? And you have this flash memory which stores your private key, so it's all in here, that's correct. And this is at MCU, so you have microcontroller within your secure element, which can do any processing. It's a general processor you have in your computer. It's also in the secure element, which can do anything. And it does much more than just UI. So it does everything like signage and so on. And this is called Bolos OS in Ledger. So Bolos is the operating system Ledger came up with. And it also includes the dashboard, the X dashboard, and all the apps you install. So all the apps you install on your Ledger device is handled by this MCU and within the secure element. And this is called secure software, actually, by Ledger. In the specification, you can read it up. And all of this lives on this flash memory element. So you could, in theory, deploy an app on the Ledger device which has a manifest inside which said, I'm not sandbox, I can go anywhere, and they can just get the private key. So it could, in theory, happen. So there's always the necessity to audit software which is deployed on the Ledger to make sure it stays in its sandbox and uses the API by the secure operating system, which so far has never happened. But it's important to remember. And this is not hard-coded. So all of this happens actually here on the microcontroller unit. And here in this integrated circuit, you have the number generator and stuff like this. So yeah, never assume that your hardware wallet is completely trustless. And no hardware wallet of current generation can be completely trustless, actually. Because the blockchains have to rely on this cryptography, like elliptic curve cryptography. So Cardano, you might have known, uses this Edwards curve digital signature algorithm, EDSA, with this elliptical curve. And there does not exist any hardware or semiconductor logic which can apply this, this natively, this elliptic curve signature. There's no hardware for this. So you have to use software for this right now. So same for Bitcoin. So to apply this, you have to extract the securely stored private key and apply it in software. In the Ledger case, it's run on the secure element to sign messages and do stuff with this. But this is something most people didn't expect from personal hardware wallet before this wake-up call, you could say. But what are advantages of this? The advantage is that it's flexibility and future-proofing. So when you do this like this, you can update later. If there's new features, you can just update the firmware. But then you might know about something like this, where we have a wallet where you say, I'm completely offline, 100% offline. We just have QR codes, so I'm even more secure than Ledger. This is interesting to look at. But then you have to think about, when you use paper wallets back in the day, you also have QR codes. You can be really sure that the QR codes you get are really what you expect to get, or maybe they contain some parts of the private key. And also interesting to know about this device, they say, we have EL7 certification, but actually in this case, if you look exactly at this, you see the certification they have is for the operating system, so it's a trusted execution environment. So the software has a very high standard, which is good, but they don't even have a secure element chip inside. So there's no hardware to support this. So yeah, you have to think about this. But when you don't have a secure element in your hardware wallet, this definitely poses a security risk. So you might remember the Trezor problems we had, where the Kraken had to report where this was this voltage glitching. And then Trezor replied to this and said, yeah, the biggest risk is really remote attacks. So nobody really, it's very rarely that people get access to the physical hardware and be able to get this data from this. But still, without a secure element, there's nothing Trezor could have done or could do to prevent this physical attack. And I just saw a couple of days ago, Ledger announced a new hardware wallet version, the Trezor Safe 3, which includes a secure element. So they move in this direction, but the implementation of this is very different from what Ledger is doing, but I won't go about this now. So here I put up the scheme from the Ledger Nano X. So you can see again the software, the Bolos X dashboard, the apps, all of this lives on the secure element chip. So you can see the secure element here. It stores the key, it does all the signing, and it's very nice. The buttons attached to this. The display is attached to this, so it controls this by the secure element. But there's an unsecure communication between this and another microcontroller, which is also on the same device, which is a generic microcontroller. But this is needed in the device because this secure element doesn't support things like Bluetooth or USB or battery management and stuff like this. So this is basically a hardware abstraction layer for the Ledger, which is being used. And there's a reason why the Tangent card doesn't have something like this, because they have no screen, they have no Bluetooth and stuff, so they can just go with a secure element alone. So, but then you can also find Kraken also identified security risks with Ledger products, some of them. So they have found there's some supply chain attacks, the bad Ledger, which sends some bad keystrokes, or the blind Ledger. They found out that this generic MCU still has one pin attached to the display, and it can use this one pin. I don't know why the pin is attached, but it is. It can use this one pin to reset the screen, and you're blind. You don't see what you're doing, and someone can trick you to please press buttons now. And in the meanwhile, they send some transaction which is malicious to the Ledger, and you confirm, and you don't know what you're doing because you're blind. So this could be an attack. And this blind attack was even much, much worse on the Ledger Nano S, so the prior product from Ledger, because in here, the buttons and the display were not attached to the secure element. There was no secure element available to support this, so all of this important button navigation stuff and screen was attached to the generic microcontroller, and people could just flash malicious firmware and execute any transaction they wanted without the confirmation of the user. So this is not possible on the Ledger Nano X anymore, so because we have this connected much better now. So what was the remedy for this from Ledger? So basically they said, yeah, don't press buttons when you don't see anything, okay? So workaround, and they said, okay, please update firmware. So I would also say, yeah, you should only buy hardware wallets from trusted sources. Don't pick them up you find on the street or buy them on eBay. And you should also keep your firmware updated. So even, yes, in the case of Ledger Recover, I would update the firmware if it includes any security patches. So here, for example, what they do in the security patch, the secure element verifies the validity of the non-secure element firmware completely. And there's a back and forth in the Ledger Nano S case with a 15-year-old hacker where they did all the different things in Ledger Nano S, so it's interesting to follow up on this. But there's a new things coming up. So there's this new initiative you might find from Blockchain Commons, I found out, which has ideas about future hardware wallets, what might come in the future. It's interesting to follow up on this. And they have slides like this, I found. They say, so cold storage for crypto currently is broken. So they have this non-secure microcontroller communicating with a secure element over an exposed bus. This is exactly what the Ledger Nano X is doing. Can't do anything else. It has a lack of physical countermeasures. It uses flash memory, which is unreliable. And it has a short shelf life of 5 to 10 years. It might then use battery, and then the data is lost. So this is not so good. And you have this, because of the secure element, that's the reason why you have closed source. and parts of it. So they say, yeah, there's a new product coming up, maybe in the future, in 5 to 10 years, I don't know when. They proposed the Chromium wallet, which uses a different version of Flash, which is using ReRAM. Have never heard about this before, and it's a new version of storing data, which is long-lasting, more than 100 years. And it's much more shielded, and it natively supports the signatures for elliptic curves in this hardware. It's very important. And it's still using a very flexible software, and you can still update it, and all within the secure enclave of the device. Much better, but then you might say, one seed is not enough. You want to have multisig. What you can do here. So when you have multisig, I get many questions about. It means multisignatures. So basically, you have multiple wallets which are required to sign a transaction. So when you create something like this, you have to design. Decide which independent wallets partake in this, and how many are needed to submit a transaction. So it can be used by an individual. If you want as a single person to secure your assets even better, you could use multisig, or you have a company or a DAO or something like this for separation of concerns or duties. That might be useful. So this adds a new security layer for stealing, or when you do a huge mistake, or someone dies and loses control, or and everything like this has happened. So this can help. So I looked at Cardano, what Cardano supports in here. So there are multiple options for multisig. There's, for example, Roundtable. There's Broclan wallet. I looked at this first example. How does it work in practice right now? So when you want to create a script, you say, I want to have a multisig wallet. Then you decide you have any name for this. So I said, my multisig test wallet. And you just add any receive addresses of wallets you want to partake in this. And then you specify the type of multisig. You can say any, at least, all of them. And I said any, at least 2 or 3. You can decide what you want. But each time you make any change to the receive addresses, to the type, or the sequence of receive addresses, and hit save, this address of the script changes. So the wallet changes. So how do you fund this? So when you use Eternal to send something to this, Eternal complains, it's very unusual to send something directly to a script. Are you really sure about this? I said, yeah, I'm sure. And the ledger also says, your output is possibly unspendable. Maybe you don't want to do this. Also confirm this. But if you confirm everything that shows up on the balance of the multisig wallet, when you want to spend it, the UX is a bit weird, at least what I found, that to get this review button, I had to select both checkboxes where I confirm some stuff I didn't care about much, but I had to confirm it. And then I can see, this is my transaction ID, this is my input, the script address to my receive address, 4 ADA, 1 ADA fee, and these are my the required signatures for this. Then you choose just the wallet to sign with, and I used Eternal. And here you can see the debt connector for this. I signed the first, signed the second, hit submit. I see the incoming transaction, all good, and the multisig wallet is empty. So it worked, but still it's a bit weird because the first signature I did with Ledger referenced the script address, and the second referenced the recipient address and the output value. So from the Ledger point of view, to me it looked like from this wallet I am signing now, I'm sending 4 ADA to this recipient. I had no idea. I was confirming a smart contract, so this is a bit worrying. Both referenced 1 ADA of fee, which is not correct because the total fee I paid was 1.17 for ADA. So what you get on the ledger is not completely correct. So there are also some risks in multisig, right, if you use multisig. So there's a good video from Andreas on this. So you have another layer of complexity if you do multisig. And if any of the keys you have used to this are lost, you might not be able to spend the funds. You can't reconstruct the key because it's a hash, right? And if you lose all the public keys, in this case the sequence, you can't use this. So multisig, if you have 2 or 3, does not create a 2 or 3 redundancy. So multisig, if you do this, it requires a 3 or 3 redundancy to provide a 2 or 3 spending authority if you need this. But you need then to have some kind of backup for the contract itself. So for example, in Roundtable, you have a JSON export, or you could recreate the contract exactly the same if you knew exactly which receive addresses you used in which sequence and which type. If you do this, you get the same hash. But if you screw this up, use a different address, you don't get a different hash, and you don't get to spend the funds. So you have to think about how to back this up. So what happens when your wallet gets stolen or breaks? Because you stored it in a safe, 10 years have passed, the flash memory has lost its storage. Whatever happened, what do we do now? Someone put a hammer to it. There's no, unfortunately, there's no common industry standard to remove a root private key from a seed phrase. So it's very different. So for Cardano, there are different standards for this. There's the Byron, Icarus, Trezor, and Ledger way to do this. And if you replace a hardware wallet with a hardware wallet of a different manufacturer, it might use a different logic to map the seed phrase to a root private key, and you might not see the funds because it maps to a different private key. This might be confusing to users because there's no standard for this. So Trezor actually seems to support multiple derivation selection mechanisms through an account discovery. So there's even a GitHub for this, very nice, publicly. Ledger, as far as I know, does not yet do this. And there do exist emergency scripts. Martin has provided, so there's emergency scripts you can use if shit hits the fan to access the funds. To basically type in the seed phrase on a computer, run the script, and extract the keys. But the best and most easy way to do this is to buy a second hardware wallet from the same manufacturer. So what are some challenges for this? There's no industry standard for key derivation. You have very high few transparency on complex transactions, especially when you interact with smart contracts like multisig or DEXs or dApps in general. And on the hardware wallet device, it's often unclear what exactly you're signing for. You can't really see it. And it's very hard to actually solve this. You probably will have to trust what you see on the UI of the wallet you use more for this. But something like this, what you see on other chains where someone has allowed increased allowance, lost 44 million in ETH, is less likely in Cardano because we have native tokens. But still, I think because of the lack of transparency, when you use a hardware wallet with complex transactions, you might still sign something you don't want to. So this is a real risk. And especially implementing and internalizing good practices for securing your funds, like seed, is very hard. And I can understand why Ledger did recover, because if you look at this, I think 6 million Bitcoin so far have been lost. So about 30% of funds have been lost. So get to my last point. So I want to give an outlook on quantum computing as a last point on hardware wallet security. So you might say, yeah, I have my hardware wallet in my safe and I'm happy. But what about quantum computing? Just yesterday I read a report. Some researchers claimed they have hacked RSA 2048. Has to be confirmed yet, but just yesterday someone said this. So what's going on? So you can say, yeah, quantum computing has a dramatic impact on numerous fields, like especially public key cryptography. And when you have this quantum computing attacker, he might be able to calculate the private key from the public key. And also you can say that hash security, from our understanding, is not so much weakened from this. So non-hashed old Bitcoin pay-to-pub key outputs are most susceptible to attacks like this right now. In Cardano, addresses are hashed. But to spend an output, the non-hashed public key has to be revealed in the mempool. So the recommendation you might have read about: don't reuse addresses, because if you use it once, it's visible in the mempool. And any validator, in theory, could already collect these public keys, waiting on a time when he has the capability to attack, and use this capability. And if you have a very advanced attacker in the future, he might even go to the mempool live, see a transaction of high value, attack this, get the private key, change the direction, and submit it to the block. It's possible. So eventually in Cardano, we will have to replace our elliptic curve with something else. So there are some variants for this. So we have to decide on this later. And users will have to move funds from this non-quantum resistant outputs to quantum resistant outputs. But the good news, and this I want to close with, is that there's a paper on this I found from BTC 2018, committing to quantum resistance, a slow defense for Bitcoin against a fast quantum computing attack. So basically they propose a system, which I think also can work for Cardano, where basically you first submit some extra transaction where you have in the metadata a hash of your public key and your new quantum resistant public key. You wait some time to avoid reorganizations in the blockchain, and eventually you sign a message where you reference proof of existence and say, I'm the owner of this, and then you can spend it. But if you have this thread, of course, it makes sense to move all the funds to a never used spend output to a public key. For this has not ever been visible on chain. But also you can assume that unless the attacker is able to reverse the hashing, which is a one-way cryptographic function from the public key, from the seed phrase to the public key, to the private key, it's impossible, probably impossible to go back. But if the quantum computer attacker can also do this, eventually you would also have to replace your seed phrase. But this is very unlikely right now. So this is the close of the session. If you want to access the slides, here you can download them.
Thank you so much there, Chris.